Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most shocking geopolitical developments of the year. Poland has just cut off Russia's critical land bridge through Belarus, and this single move could reshape Europe's balance of power. What just happened is far more than a border issue. It's a strategic blow to Moscow's trade routes, its military logistics, and even its global image. Let's break down what this means for Russia, Belarus, Poland, and the future of Europe's security. For years, the land bridge connecting Russia to its western markets through Belarus and Poland was a quiet lifeline for Moscow. Trains carrying oil, coal, and industrial goods passed daily through this corridor, keeping Russian exports alive despite sanctions. But now, that route is effectively dead. Poland's sudden shutdown of all border crossings and trade checkpoints has left hundreds of freight trains stranded, with containers full of goods stuck in limbo. What was once a vital trade artery is now a geopolitical dead end. The immediate cause of this dramatic escalation lies in Poland's growing frustration with Belarus and Russia. Over the past months, Poland accused both countries of orchestrating migrant pressure along its border and threatening NATO's eastern flank. Tensions grew after reports that Russian military supplies and dual-use goods were moving through Belarus under the disguise of commercial shipments. Poland's decision to completely halt border operations is its boldest response yet, a clear message to Moscow that Europe's patience is over. This border closure isn't just symbolic. It's a massive logistical nightmare for Russia. The Belarusian, Polish route was one of the few remaining paths for Russian exports to reach Europe by land. With it gone, Moscow must reroute goods through far longer and more expensive paths, such as via the Baltic Sea or through Turkey. Energy exports, fertilizers, and raw materials all face new bottlenecks. In essence, Poland has struck directly at the arteries of Russia's post-sanctions survival strategy. Inside Russia, the reaction has been one of disbelief and outrage. Kremlin officials condemned Poland's move as an act of hybrid warfare, while state media accused NATO of trying to isolate Russia completely. But behind the rhetoric lies panic. The closure threatens the stability of trade and transport across the entire region. Russian logistics companies are reporting massive losses, and hundreds of trains are now idle along Belarusian tracks with nowhere to go. For a country already struggling under economic strain, this is a devastating blow. Belarus, caught in the middle, is now under immense pressure. Its leader, Alexander Lukashenko, finds himself in a dilemma, too dependent on Russia to defy Moscow, but too close to Poland and the EU to ignore the economic fallout. Belarusian border towns that relied on cross-border trade are already feeling the pain. Reports from the region describe truck drivers stranded for days, perishable goods spoiling in containers, and locals fearing that the border may stay closed indefinitely. Poland's government, meanwhile, is standing firm. Officials in Warsaw insist that national security comes first. They claim the shutdown was necessary to prevent illegal arms transfers, migrant smuggling, and sabotage operations linked to Russian intelligence. In their words, Poland will not allow its territory to be used as a backdoor for Moscow's influence. Behind the scenes, however, it's clear that this move is part of a larger European effort to economically and logistically choke Russia's access to the continent. Across Europe, reactions have been divided. Baltic nations such as Lithuania and Latvia have voiced strong support for Poland's decision, praising it as a necessary act of defense. Germany and France, however, are more cautious, warning that such a blockade could escalate tensions even further. Still, the message is clear. Russia's influence in Europe is shrinking rapidly, and even its closest routes are being sealed off one by one. The impact of this land bridge collapse goes beyond trade. Militarily, it's a strategic setback for Russia. The corridor through Belarus has long been viewed as a crucial potential route for moving troops or supplies in the event of a conflict with NATO. With Poland shutting it down, Moscow's logistical flexibility in Europe is severely reduced. It's another signal that the alliance's eastern border is now firmly closed to any Russian advance. Economically, the timing couldn't be worse for Moscow. Sanctions have already strangled much of Russia's export capacity, forcing it to rely on limited alternative partners like China, Turkey, and Iran. Now, even the limited access through Eastern Europe has vanished. Companies dependent on cross-border shipments are reporting record losses. Russian analysts are warning of further inflation, shortages, and logistical breakdowns in several industrial sectors. What's particularly striking is how Poland's decision caught Moscow completely off guard. Just weeks ago, Russian officials were boasting that trade through Belarus remained stable despite Western pressure. Now that confidence has turned to silence, Moscow's attempts to pressure Warsaw through diplomatic or economic means have failed so far. Poland, backed by NATO, is standing on firm ground. For the first time in decades, Russia's access to Europe is nearly non-existent. The situation also highlights how fragile Russia's alliances have become. Belarus, though officially an ally, is struggling to maintain balance. Other countries that once served as transit partners, like Kazakhstan or Armenia, are now wary of Western backlash and sanctions. What was once a vast logistical network for Russia's exports is now a shrinking maze of blocked routes and closed borders. On the ground, the images are startling. Satellite footage shows massive queues of freight trains lining up near the Belarus-Poland border, stretching for kilometers. Drone footage reveals idle locomotives and rusting containers, a visual symbol of how Russia's supply chain has come to a halt. Truck drivers have been filmed waiting for days without clear instructions, and some companies are now abandoning cargo entirely. In Moscow, the propaganda machine is spinning fast. State-controlled channels are calling this a temporary disruption and blaming the West for economic aggression. Yet independent analysts say the damage could last for months, even years. Restoring trade routes, negotiating new transport deals, and rebuilding trust with partners will take far longer than Russia can afford. For ordinary Russians, this development may soon hit home. Prices for imported goods are expected to rise sharply, and shortages of certain items may return. For Poland and other European nations, it's a demonstration of their growing ability to strike at Russia without firing a single shot. It's economic warfare carried out through logistics, and it's proving incredibly effective. This crisis also sends a powerful signal to other nations watching from the sidelines. It shows how the power of borders and infrastructure can be used as strategic tools in modern conflicts. By closing a few railway gates and halting trade, Poland has caused ripple effects across an entire continent. It's a reminder that in today's interconnected world, wars aren't just fought with missiles, they're fought with supply chains, transport corridors, and economic choke points. In the long run, this border shutdown could reshape how Europe and Russia interact for decades to come. The message from Warsaw is clear. Russia's aggression has consequences, and Europe will not tolerate economic blackmail or covert operations. For Moscow, this is yet another setback in its struggle to maintain influence beyond its borders. Every bridge burned, whether physical or political, isolates it further. Analysts now predict that Russia will accelerate its shift toward Asia, focusing more on trade with China, India, and Iran. But those routes are already overloaded and politically complicated. Without stable access to the West, Russia's economy faces a future of higher costs, limited reach, and deep uncertainty. Meanwhile, in Poland, the move has boosted national pride. Many see it as payback for years of intimidation and hybrid attacks from Russia and Belarus. The country's leadership is being praised across Europe for its courage and firmness. For Ukrainians, too, this closure feels like another small victory, proof that Russia's network of influence is shrinking. This moment marks a turning point in Europe's modern history. A quiet trade corridor that once symbolized cooperation has now become a front line in a new kind of conflict, one defined not by tanks and soldiers, but by trains, sanctions, and the tightening grip of borders. As the world watches, the collapse of Russia's land bridge through Belarus stands as a warning. Power today isn't just about military might, it's about control of routes, resources, and relationships. And right now, that control is slipping further away from Moscow. So as hundreds of trains remain frozen in place and trade grinds to a halt, one question remains: how will Russia recover from this blow? Or has Europe finally found the pressure point that could change the course of the conflict? Whatever happens next, one thing is clear. The decision by Poland to shut down the Belarus crossings has redrawn the map of Europe's power. This isn't just a story about borders. It's a story about the unraveling of Russia's grip on its own neighborhood. And as history has shown time and time again, once supply lines are cut, empires begin to crumble. The collapse of the land bridge might not be the end of the war, but it's the beginning of something even bigger, a strategic shift that could define the future of Europe for generations.